How are you guys doing today?
Good. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Let's see what Alessio's got to say here.
What's up, everyone? Today, I'm excited to announce that I'll be joined by two legendary English traders, Alessio Rastani and Charlie Burton. Yeah, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. So, as you know, Bitcoin's been kind of steadily consolidating since its latest big move on October 25th. Could you give us an idea of what you think is going to be the next move for Bitcoin, and when do you think that move will happen? Either of you can take this question.
Well, I guess I can start off. Again, thanks for having us on. I appreciate having me on as well. Basically, today, as we're making this video, in fact, Bitcoin has sort of dropped further, presumably to fill that gap that it formed after the massive spike high in October. I said before that my view still hasn't really changed. Essentially, I believe that the rally we saw back in October, I consider that as an impulsive rally. In other words, I consider that as not a correction to the previous drop, but more as potentially the beginning of a potentially start of a new trend to the upside. So I think this is just retracing, filling the gap. And I'm looking to find, basically, if this is the bottom on Bitcoin, which again, I still think this could be a bottom here on Bitcoin, the bounce that we saw. If this is a bottom, which is my view, then it needs to hold support at 8,700 to 8,400. If Bitcoin closes the week below the 21 moving average, the 21 weekly average, which is about 9,000, I think Bitcoin may be in a bit of trouble there because that usually results in further losses, further drops down. As long as we hold the October lows, and as long as we can keep above the 8,700 to 8,400, 87 to 8,400 is really my line in the sand. As long as we can hold above those support, as long as the bulls, buyers can protect those levels, I still think there's a chance here that we could see, this rally continuing further higher. In other words, we could potentially see further gains in the weeks ahead.
What do you think about that analysis, Charlie?
Okay, can I share a screen actually?
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go into the other analysis in a moment, but I've got a trend line on here, as you can see, very clear across the tops here. It's just a daily chart, and we keep reacting to that trend line at the moment. So, like Alessio's been saying, 8,400 comes in with all of these prior little cluster of price action down here. So, I can see that the Bitcoin could want to come down into that zone. Then we'd want to see it hold, and really a breakout of that trend line would be quite a nice key break for Bitcoin. So that is something which I think is quite important. As far as the weekly chart's concerned, though, the weekly is already below the weekly 20 or 21. Here's my 20 on here. So I'm not too worried about that. We broke that a month or 2 months ago. But overall, the bottom line is when I'm looking at these charts like this, what's the overall theme? The overall theme is that certainly since the beginning of the year, we had this fantastic run, and then we've done a pullback. Looking at the weekly charts, the monthly charts, this is still a bullish market. It's just been in a bit of a pullback since it made the highs in the summer.
Mm-hmm. So Alessio, on your YouTube channel, I've seen that you've been talking about something called the wild card theory. Could you just quickly explain what exactly that is and what you think the chances are of it actually happening?
Yeah, the wild card just simply means this. The correction on Bitcoin off the highs at near 14,000, near 13,800. We're going to be much more deeper, below the 21 weekly average. We're going to plunge below that, going near the 8,000 to 7,000 level, maybe even down to 6,000. But essentially, I was looking for 8,000 to 7,000 regions. And the reason I was expecting that is because I believe that the wild card simply means that it's going to make people think, oh, wow, it's going to go drop significantly lower. In other words, people have to turn bearish for us to become a bottom. Contrarian thinking. In other words, what I was saying was we need to wipe out and take out a lot of the bulls. Bulls need to be taken out. The sentiment needs to get bearish again. People need to start thinking negative, which actually happened recently. People were calling for lower and lower figures recently.
In a number of your recent videos, Alessio, you mentioned how you think that there's going to be a recession coming in the next 10 to 12 months or so. What do you think about that assessment, Charlie? And what do you think a recession's effect will have on Bitcoin?
Okay, there's been a slight global slowing, a slowing of the global economy. And there are a number of factors at play, Brexit being one, trade wars, disputes between the US or Donald Trump and the rest of the world. And so these are factors that we don't know 100% how they're going to play out. Now, literally in the last 24 hours, the Trump administration have been claiming that and China are both saying that they think they've got a deal and they're going to reduce the tariffs and not impose tariffs. So that could be a really positive, and we've seen the stock markets doing really well on the back of that. And it's the same with Brexit now, looking more like we're going to get a deal. So if those events are going to play out that way, then I don't know if we will be seeing a recession. We might still see a continuing cooling of the global economy, but not overly seeing a recession, not within the next 12 months. Obviously, there are always going to be recessions coming at some point or other, but I'm not overly seeing that just yet. But certainly there are warning signs within the global economy. The consumer certainly looks a bit stretched in certain economies.
What's your position on the recession, Alessio? Do you still think it's going to happen, or have you changed your stance at all?
No, I'm actually very confident. I'm probably I understand the caution that Charlie is making here, and I totally understand where it's coming from. However, I'm actually more confident that we're heading towards a recession. I agree, probably not in the next 12 months, but I think in the next 18 months, my own actual preferred target year is 2021. A lot of people are saying is next year, 2020. I'm actually leaning towards 2021. But bottom line is 12 to 18 months is the kind of time frame I'm looking for the next recession. Number of reasons. Number one, the yield curve inversion. A lot of people saying, oh, because the yield curve has now gone above zero, it's not inverted anymore. It's actually gone above, it's positive now. Oh, everything's okay now. Wrong. It's actually when the yield curve goes negative and stays below negative for at least 50 days, which has happened so far, and then goes above the zero level, that's when the risk of a recession becomes more imminent. In fact, there was an interesting video on CNBC recently by the creator of the yield curve himself, the person who actually invented and researched this yield curve inversion. I forget his name. And he said, again, this is the words he used, the creator of the yield curve inversion. He said it's code red right now for the economy.
And now we're code red. We have an inversion effectively for 2 quarters. It's really hard to ignore.
He's basically much more bearish than I am. He said it's code red. Those were the words he used. And he said we're heading for a recession probably in the next 12 to 18 months. And there's not just the yield curve inversion. It's also the ISM PMI has gone below 50 now with the yield curve inversion. Fed cutting rate. The Fed cutting rates is itself, after raising rates and the Fed cutting them, if you look historically, every time the Fed has cut rates after raising them, bad move. It's a bad move for the economy. It's essentially a significant sign of weakness in the economy.
Thanks, Jackson.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
That was Alessio Rastani and Charlie Burton joining me today to discuss the crypto market. Thank you everyone for watching, and always remember to like, subscribe, and hodl.